covering our announcements today and giving people the confidence that we're working very hard to shore up our healthcare workforce as well as address COVID and monkeypox on an ongoing basis. So any questions today?
Governor, if I can ask you about COVID in schools, the past couple of years it's been controversial, mandates and the like. Do you plan on issuing either mandates or guidance that you would recommend for schools?
We are not making an alteration to the plan that was in place at the end of the school year. For example, based on the numbers we have now, we don't see a need to reinstitute masks, for example. We're going to continue to get test kits out to students and make sure that they have access to vaccines, and for teachers to have access to vaccines and booster shots. But we're promoting those. But as we head into this fall, we have a lot more information than we've had in past years. And one of the main takeaways and most significant lessons of the last pandemic is that when children are not in a school setting on an ongoing, regular basis, with that support system around them, they falter. And now we're seeing perhaps a generational impact on the children who were home for 1.5, 2 years. And so our number one goal towards school will be keeping children safe in that school environment. We're not anticipating the need for masks or anything else beyond that.
But is there concern about outbreaks in schools? A kid gets sick, they're not masked, and it just ricochets through a community?
Well, that can happen in any environment. And we've never seen any data that shows that children are more vulnerable in school settings than they are in their family gatherings or, in an after-school program or in a daycare setting. So we've not seen evidence that children are more uniquely affected. But if we did see data to point to that conclusion, obviously we reserve the right to make any changes if necessary. But on balance, we look at the safety of children in schools. We have now more data to review, including last semester, where we did not see a spike in cases once they returned to school and when masks were coming off.
Governor, later today, the mayor of the city of New York is going to have a press conference to once again call for bail reform, and they're going to be releasing a list of 10 recidivists who have been released, done more crimes, been released, done more crimes, making the case that if judges had the ability to use dangerousness as a criteria for setting bail, that they wouldn't be on the street. I wonder if you support that concept of giving judges the ability to consider dangerousness, and if you would dedicate yourself to trying to get the legislature to do that.
I'm aware of the mayor's press conference, and I absolutely support his interest in getting the judges to follow the law. And I encourage everybody in the entire ecosystem related to public safety, starting with law enforcement and our district attorneys and our judges, to review the bail laws that were enacted in the budget that became in effect on May 9th. And every one of those changes gives them the tools they need to work toward our common objective of increasing public safety. The mayor and I are in sync on this. I believe that the legislature, with my serious prodding, have made great strides. We're not finished yet, but what the judges now have, and I'm not sure why everybody intentionally ignores this, but people are out there, and people trying to make political calculations based on this. If they read what we've now given judges to consider, no longer do judges simply consider whether or not there's a likelihood of the person returning for their court appearance, which had been the case even before bail reform. I just want to say that. That was always the case. What we gave judges was the ability to consider severity of the offense. Is this a repeat offense? Is there a history involved here? So we now have spelled out for judges factors to consider in weighing whether or not this person should be out on the street or not. And we also added more crimes that are back under bail eligible or arrest eligible than had been under the previous reforms. And I'll repeat them again. Hate crimes, gun crimes, violation of an order of protection. There is an entire list. So what I think is missing here in this whole conversation is the analysis of what we actually did, looking now to see whether or not the judges are properly executing under those standards, whether the DAs are now following what we've now given them to consider. In fact, we made it a lot easier for district attorneys because they complained to us that hundreds and hundreds of cases were being dismissed based on technicality, one bit of evidence is missing. We changed that again. So I want people to look at the body of what had been done, start implementing based on that, but realizing that that is not the only indicator of why we have crime out there or the only way to deal with it. Why aren't we talking about getting violent guns off the streets as well? This is something the mayor and I work on together. His NYPD, my state police, and 8 other states are involved in the first ever in the nation gun interdiction task force. We're working with ATF. We'll be bringing them here to New York City in a couple of weeks to talk about this. So the mayor and I have a multifaceted approach. I agree with him that those are cases, and if I look at them personally, I'll probably be able to come to the conclusion that every one of them could have been held if the judges had executed based on the standards we've given them. So that's who we are. Always more to do, though.
Governor, can I just follow up? Are you saying that judges and DAs are not following the laws that are on the books? And if you're saying that, what are you going to do to make sure that they do?
What am I going to do about duly elected judges not doing what they're supposed to do? That's up to the voters, isn't it? I mean, they're elected. I believe in accountability at all levels, and people can't just be saying that they don't have something when they do have it to make that as an excuse. But my role here as governor is not to point fingers. That doesn't get us anywhere. I believe that every element of the entire criminal justice system needs to be working collaboratively, me working with the mayor, our law enforcement teams working together, the judges doing their jobs, the district attorneys doing their jobs. It all has to work together to not just reduce crime, which is going up all over the country. We know that. It is up everywhere. We are safer than many areas, but I'm not going to feel comfortable as long as people feel anxiety in this community. And I'm going to continue working on this day in and day out, working in partnership with the mayor of New York. So we are in agreement that there are many individuals who should not be being let out. Totally agree with that.
Is it fair to say that maybe judges are a little bit confused on the law? There's such a long list of what is bail eligible, what is not. A dangerousness standard would kind of clear that up because it's no longer based on cash bail. It would be based on their discretion. Remember, some of these county leaders are the ones who choose the judges. Would you support that dangerousness standard going forward? And is it fair to say the legislature just won't do it?
Tell me how you define dangerousness and how that differs from the list of specific criteria that we're asking them to weigh. Is one subjective and one based on metrics? I think so, and I think the judges might want to just shift around and look at something that's been handed to them, criteria to look at in making your determination, which should make it go easier than relying on your own individual life's experiences and you determine what dangerousness is. This is an enhancement. This is an enhancement because we want them to do their jobs. And if there's confusion and people don't understand, I'm sure there's continuing education programs that are out there. They can, we can give more briefings to people. I'm happy to have, our policy team work with people because I do think that you're absolutely right. There probably is a miscommunication, a misperception that things have not changed when in fact the law, which I read all the time, I have it practically memorized, I know this law, is available for everyone to read and make sure they're applying the law. This is the law of the land in the state of New York. It is our full expectation that it will be applied.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.